like,
man, wow.
when show's over, like, hey man, how your brother doing? And I always say, which one?
Right, right. I love it.
Don't just act like he's the only one you care about. Like, which brother?
Right, right.
How your brother? Which one?
And then how does Jordan feel about the shit?
Nah, Jordan's the man. Jordan,
he after all y'all.
Jordan Rock is my favorite comedian. My brother Chris didn't do as much for me,
right?
Which is what I wanted.
Okay.
But that I'm gonna do everything I can for Jordan.
Yeah.
That's baby bro.
Yeah.
I love him to death.
Yeah.
Whatever I can do, I'm making phone calls. I'm
always wanted to know. That's baffled the shit out of me. And both you and Eddie Murphy, I go. We know as black men how hard it is for us to make it in this hustle.
Right.
It's hard for white boys to make it.
Right.
Because of the competitive nature of the beast.
right.
But for us, it's even harder.
Right.
So I go, how is it that Eddie Murphy is your brother, and I don't see you in no Eddie Murphy vehicles, Charlie? How is it that Chris Rock is your brother, and I don't see you in no Chris Rock shit? And now, before you answer, here's the one that fucked me up the most. The movie that Chris and Martin was in, where they played brothers.
So that
That me up.
I'm going, not in a million years do Chris Rock and Martin have the same facial features.
Yes.
Tony is his brother and look like him. How is Tony not in the fucking movie playing his brother?
I'll give you another one. They did The Longest Yard in Arizona.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Him and Sandler.
Yeah.
Joey Diaz. Joey Diaz is my man forever. Joey Diaz is my man forever. Joey Diaz said day one on the set, he walked on the set, saw all the people in the prison. My brother came on set ready to shoot. He said, hey, hold the fuck up.
Where's Tony?
What the fuck is Tony? So you mean Tony doesn't fit in this fucking movie? I said, Joey Diaz, you my man forever.
Yeah.
You my man forever, Joey Diaz.
Explain that to me.
Isn't it weird how Chris Rock was always getting these Hollywood movie deals and comedy specials, while his brother Tony tried really hard to maintain relevance? After all this time keeping his mouth shut, Tony finally put his brother on blast for consistently using his fame to shut him out of rooms. And child, Chris is doing the same thing to their younger brother Jordan, because he's afraid of being replaced by his own family. When Chris had his whole thing with Will Smith, you know, the entire slap thing, one person that was ready to throw hands was Tony, and he carried it on his head like no man's business and slammed Will over and over again for putting his hands on his big brother. But the thing is that Will and Tony have always been good friends, up until that point at least. Will fought to make Tony a reoccurring character on his sitcom, All of Us, created about his life balancing a blended family with Jada Pinkett and his ex-wife Cherie. And he also advocated for Tony to get the role of Uncle Ryan on Everybody Hates Chris, while Chris Rock was more than happy to let his brother sit on the sidelines. And if you'll remember, when Will was apologizing for the mayhem at the Oscars, he made a personal apology to Tony.
I want to apologize to Chris's family, specifically Tony Rock. You know, we had a great relationship. You know, Tony Rock was my man. This is probably irreparable.
But Tony was like, nope, this thing is done for. It made it obvious that he was going to rock with his brother. No pun intended. But child, it looks like Tony was checking for someone that doesn't even care if he has food on the table.
It's on the Headliners Only. I've asked him for 5 favors my whole life. He said no every time, and I swore on everything I loved I would never ask him for anything as long as I lived. So that night, I walk in the Comedy Cellar. He goes, yo, I got a movie. I'm putting you in it. Now I got to do my due diligence. Okay, who do I have to call? Do I have to audition? Do I have to send a tape? No, you good. We're shooting in New York too. I'm like, bet. Summertime in New York. I'm gonna be in New York for the summer. I'm gonna be home shooting a movie with my brother for the summer. I'm beyond excited. It don't get no better than this. I'm thinking this is another one of those things where people never know how close you are.
Right.
So it's New York. Everybody that's a stand-in, I know. Mm-hmm. Everybody that's background, I know.
Everybody.
So I'm on tour, waiting for the phone call, tell my management, tell my agency, yo, once he calls, we're gonna pause the tour and go shoot the movie. Yeah, bet, we ready. And I start getting phone calls like, hey, I'm on set, where you at? I'm like, what you mean you on set? We started shooting today. Today was the first day. Oh, well, I didn't get a phone call. A week later, hey babe, where you at? I'm doing background on this club scene, are you here? What are you talking about? Yeah, we shooting, the top 5 is up and running. Like a month in, 2 months in. I get a phone call. Yo, you at the rap party? We here.
Oh,
Damn.
Yo, bruh, that shit crushed me. That shit crushed me, bro.
So why didn't you
Look,
call?
I've never seen the movie Top 5. I shouldn't have to call.
Yeah.
You said to your brother, I'm gonna put you in a movie.
I feel it.
I should just get a phone call like, yo, tomorrow we'll be here 2 o'clock, we shoot. Or yo, give me your email, I'm gonna send you the sides.
You had to be angry.
See, everyone ain't built like Keenan Wayne's, because the way he put his whole family on is one for the books, and he made sure that they were also talented and put in the work to maintain their position in the industry. Eddie Murphy even had his brother Charlie Murphy in about 4 of his movies and got him as a writer for Vampire in Brooklyn. Don't know if y'all know this, but part of the reason why Chris starred in so many movies and got his name recognized in Hollywood is because of his bestie Adam Sandler. Adam was also making sure that Chris was included and speaking his name in rooms where he wasn't even mentioned. Yet you would think that Chris would at least put his family on, but no. It really do be your own family sometimes.
Okay.
I'm knocking doors up the hinges for him.
But Chris didn't do that for you.
No, I didn't want him to.
Why?
Again, I want to stand on my own.
Just stand on your own.
Plus, from our childhood, listen, this is the million episode, right?
Right.
So we was kids, and I told this story before. I asked my brother for 5 favors. He said no every time.
5.
5 favors. There was 5 favors
What
that I
was the
vividly.
5?
It was simple
Random,
shit,
whatever
kid
it was,
shit. But I just
right.
remember asking him, like, coming to my brother, like, could you please do this? Nah, fuck out of here. 5 times in my life, in our upbringing. And that 5th time I said, I swear on everything I love, I'll never ask this motherfucker anything ever again as long as I live.
Brothers are dick to you sometimes, like.
Big brothers are all big brothers are dicks.
Oh, okay.
All big brothers are dicks sometimes,
Sometimes.
right? I didn't f him when he first started. He was like, my brother's a dick.
As soon as he got in, Chris made sure to close the gates behind him and throw away the key. And one person who suffered the most from that was Tony. The movie Top 5 he was talking about releasing in 2014, it featured entertainers like DMX and Carly Red from Love and Hip Hop. So why wasn't there room for Tony? And what makes things even more messed up is that Tony was just chilling, not asking for anything, when Chris randomly called him and said that he was going to put him on. And then when things fell through, he didn't even have enough decency to follow back and let him know. And it seems like all of this was done on purpose and is giving very bitter, very jealous. And yes, he is more successful, but Chris has always been a bit insecure when it comes to his brother and family in general. Chris is the eldest of his parents' 7 children, and he always talked about how he had to take on a lot of responsibility, especially since they were struggling, and he was only seen as valuable when he was doing stuff for everybody else. As a kid, everyone seemed to love Tony, but hated Chris. So when he got into Hollywood, Chris was only looking out for Chris and wanted his brother nowhere near his fame and success. Anytime his brother ever asked for something, Chris would always issue a quick no and find a way to justify it. Even in movies where Tony was being considered, Chris allegedly always recommended that someone else was better for the role. And he used the person's higher status in Hollywood as a way to justify why they would be a better fit than his brother Tony. And he kept this going until it caused a rift between the brothers to the point where they didn't talk. After his divorce, Tony made an effort to reach out to his brother and try to find a middle ground in their relationship. But Chris continued to keep his brother at arm's length, especially when it came to securing any deals. And now Tony is saying that their brother Jordan, who's just starting his journey in Hollywood, is getting the same treatment. Tony is making all of the calls and pulling out all of the stops to make sure that his brother gets a chance to do the things he couldn't. But Chris, child, count him out. You know, I guess we would get it if Tony and Jordan were lazy and not willing to put in the work, or maybe even not funny enough to get Chris to lend them a hand. But that's certainly not the case. Both of them are consistently pulling out all the stops when it comes to their careers, and Tony has more than paid his dues. And Chris sees all of that.
I was strategic, man. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get in every comedy club in New York. I'm gonna be a paid regular at every comedy club in New York. And by the time I did that, it was like 15 comedy clubs in New York.
Okay.
I would make enough money in a weekend to pay my rent.
Damn. For the month.
So that was, okay, rent's taken care of. Then it's, groceries and, if I had to do, remember you had to make tapes to send to comedy clubs to get booked back then.
Right.
To get a stack
Come
of
on
VHS
now.
tapes,
Come on now.
record your sets and mail them to comedy clubs across the country to get stage time.
Right.
So I was doing that. I had to pay for headshots, but I had money. I was like, okay,
Right.
cool. But when I started, I was like, I was way more disciplined. I don't want to say way more than I am now.
Right.
But I knew if it was gonna work, if I'm coming behind my brother,
Right.
it's gonna have to be, this is all you do. You got to do this every day, all day. So I didn't go on any dates.
Right.
I
Damn.
wasn't chasing chicks. I wasn't hanging out in parties. I had literally left a life that I had behind to do this.
Right. And you left life
when I was
behind.
working a regular job, like
Right.
I'm saying, when I had a 9 to 5,
Right.
I would get off on Friday, We in a car driving to Philly for the weekend. Yo, let's go to Baltimore. Let's go to CIAA. Let's go to Howard Homecoming. Let's go to Hampton. Once I started stand-up, I was like, yo, y'all be cool.
You became a student. I love that.
I gotta
like
write these
that.
jokes. I gotta do this open mic.
Like,
So if it was a date with me, was like, yo, bounce around New York City
Right.
with me from comedy club to comedy club.
Tony is now making it a point to not allow anything he does to be associated with Chris. And it looks like Jordan is doing the same thing and trying to find his way and ignores any connection to his brother the same way he pushes them to the sidelines. And it looks like folks are on Tony's side about this. Quote, Will Smith was right to slap the taste out of Chris. I always felt Chris is shady behind the scenes, like low down, a snake. This just confirms it. End quote. Also, quote, it's wild that he was ready to fight Will, who was friends with him and actually cast him in a television show as a regular, over a dude that admittedly doesn't talk to you a lot and gave you no assistance in your profession despite having the power to do so. Cold business. End quote. And another, quote, that's why I respect the Wayans family so much. They don't play when it comes to each other and generated enough wealth for generations beyond their living. End quote. Some are saying that Chris doesn't owe his brother anything. It ain't his business how Tony makes it in Hollywood. But do y'all feel the same? Or is Chris messed up for the way that he treats his family? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments and like and subscribe. Don't you dare click off before you do so. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, baddies.